From 1911 until 1928, the Winter Hill Ice Company of East Cambridge, Massachusetts operated an extensive facility on the southern shore of Highland Lake in East Andover. Ice from the lake was harvested and stored during the winter, then shipped down to Boston and Cambridge during the summer. Their ice storage building above the lake shore was reputed to be the largest east of the Mississippi River, with a floor area of 200 feet by 450 feet, a bit over 2 acres, large enough to store essentially all of the ice available from the lake. A large boarding house provided for the employees sent up from Massachusetts for the ice harvest. A large barn housed the many horses that were used in the summer to deliver the ice, but were shipped up here during the winter to provide power out on the lake. A dunking house, a sort of a warm water bathtub, was built to revive horses that fell through the ice. A special railroad siding was built where the ice was loaded and transported to Boston, and shipments often amounted to a dozen carloads daily. But by the 1920s, the development of artificial ice-making technology was making it uneconomic to harvest natural ice up in the country and transport it down to the city centers. And the emergence of the Kelvinator home refrigerator led to a decline in the need for home delivery. This led the company in 1928 to build a modern ice-making plant at their facility in East Cambridge. They sold off the Andover property, and within 2 years, the ice house was torn down and the machinery was removed. Until very recently, the boarding house, the barn, and the dunking bath were still standing, and the extensive foundations of the ice house were clearly visible. This film was made in 1927 by Robert C. Taylor, son of the Winter Hill Ice Company owner, Ralph S. Taylor. The parade of ice delivery wagons was part of a traditional Memorial Day workhorse parade in Boston. The narrator in the film is Philip C. Whitney of the New England Tool Collectors Association.
This is a very, very fancy way of cleaning snow off of the pond. Normally, this particular snow scoop is handled with a team of horses, and you'll see a couple of these in future shots here. This is a tractor-driven unit, which is progress. This is the horse-drawn plow, very commonly going in each direction. And Jack, obviously, is one of the employees. And some nice French gentlemen. Look at the size of the float that they're bringing down, and notice that they've harvested a lot of ice already. The Whit was a gasoline engine. It was a headless engine, and it was marketed by the Gifford Wood Company. It took a standard ice saw hand blade and put it onto a reciprocating unit that was sled mounted, and you pulled it back across the ice and it cut through. What he probably is doing here is cutting out the area that was scored previously, because it's moving much too fast to be cutting a full 12 or 15 inches of ice. He's only cutting a couple of inches of ice to separate the floats. And then they'll go back to the edge of these and bar them off with their 2- and 3-prong breaker bars, and then pry the whole assembly away. The open water here is great enough that they're moving a whole string of these along at one time down the shore. You saw the snow scoop being used with horses a few minutes ago, pushing it out the snow. So they're clearing the field as they go along. Here we go again. They're clearing some more field, getting ready for the next cutting. And that's returning it. They're tipped upside down. Evidently they had a good freeze, because otherwise they'd have cleaned it off between each snowstorm, just to give the ice a chance to freeze rather than be insulated with the snow. A lot of open water. It's a big house on the other side, and they're using steam power, as you can see. They've really harvested a lot of tonnage already this year. And they have a steamboat, and that was a little barge that was used to push these floats across that open water and get them over into the area of the basin saw that you're going to see in a few minutes. And the basin saw was a real innovative unit. What happened is you pushed this float of ice into these saw blades, and it grooved 6 or 8 cuts across this big float at the same time, which saved doing it out there on the ice. It was much faster. And then once these are cut going through the saw, they're pushed over to the channel where they'll be sent into the chain itself to go up. This is the back side of the saw showing the chips coming off. I'm estimating they've got five or six cakes out of each of these floats. So that'll be about 25 cakes of ice, I would imagine. This chain that you're going to see is a very rapid chain, too. It wasn't uncommon to put 180 cakes a minute into the house. The channel here is well boarded either side. The crew is really moving ice. It's moving extremely rapidly. It goes down and it makes a corner and turns into the chain to be picked up. There, steam engine, and that's probably running the pump that you'll see to pump water here in a few minutes. There's the chain behind him. So these are 4-foot cakes anyway, maybe as much as 5 foot. This is known as a white chain. Every notch on the chain is full of ice. Watch this real closely. You'll see that man barring the cake apart. You notice that these were scored ahead of time, and he dropped the bar in and broke those into individual. Now this was the fastest way of getting rid of your slush. Instead of trucking it away, they pumped water up into a wooden flume, so to speak, and the chips of ice landed in that flume and went channeling off somewhere back out behind the ice house in a back field somewhere, anywhere that they could stack it up and get rid of it. And this particular operation would make an awful lot of tonnage. There'd be tremendous amount of waste chips here, as they said in the captioning. One man stayed out there. You know how ice blocks things up? Now these are the waste blocks. When they broke a block in the house, it was just slid out the end of the house and taken out of the way. There's another view of that waste pile. That's the back end of the house where they just pushed that junk out. Pretty good snowstorm going on while the cameraman was working. So Boston, and it's the Winter Hill Ice Company. And that is a big ice house, as you can see if you can judge distances at all. I'm sure this is one of the little offices. Now this has got to be a parade, and somewhere in Boston. These companies were extremely proud of their teams. These horses were great. The Iceman stopped, he got out, he carried ice up 2 or 3 floors. Whatever had to be delivered, he simply spoke to the horse and it moved up to the next house on the street. And this has got to be where they're judging, because you will notice numbers on the horses, on the teams. I saw one number that was 455. I can't believe there's 455 teams. But what you can see here, I will bet at that time there was probably at least 55 teams. And if this was an intercity competition instead of just amongst their own teams, then easily it could have had a lot more than that. But the filming is strictly of Winter Hill Ice teams. And it sure looks like the brownstone walk-ups in Boston. That was a single horse. Now we've got some double horse hitches. These wagons carried a lot of tonnage. These horses earned their keep, as did the Iceman that carried the 100-pound cakes or 50-pound cakes upstairs, 3rd and 4th floor walk-up. And for our horse people, there's some beautiful looking horses in that in this set of photos here of the parade.